So, we here. I get this jump drive from when I was going to be in graphic design. It just didn't pan out. Man, I've tried to do a lot of different things that just didn't pan out. And at first I used to be mad. I used to be frustrated thinking about when I first got out the military. Today would be 20 years since I joined the Army, like the day before my 20 years. So this would complete the 20 years and tomorrow would start year 21. So in 2000, I went to the military. It was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. Unfortunately, I was not able to stay in the military because I had 2 knee surgeries back to back on my left knee, and after those knee surgeries, that's when the deployment to Iraq happened. Because I am a no-limit soldier, I thought I told you. I did not want to stay behind with the pregnant people. Probably a decision that really ended my military career, versus there were people that were able-bodied that had other issues that decided not to go to Iraq, that was trying to invoke their right not to go to Iraq. But I felt like I could walk. If I could walk, I could fight in the war. This is just the way my mind works. My mind is not, I'm gonna fall back and be scared and run and duck and all of that. Like, I'm bad at it, because I'm bad at it. So I was like, look, if I can walk, I can shoot, I can drive, I can be there to fight with the people that I've been serving in the military with for all this time. So in thinking like that, in believing that way, I naturally got off of my physical profile that limited my ability to march, stand, and all those other things. And I basically volunteered to go to Iraq with my fellow soldiers. If things would have went the opposite way, I probably would have still been in the military, because I would have been on profile for probably another 6 months to a year, depending on how my leg went and if they felt like it was right to send me. And then I probably would have tried to move to a different base because I had reached my mark where I could try to go somewhere else. I probably would have stayed in a whole lot longer if I would have not deployed to Iraq. But I had a dream about going to Iraq. When I got to Iraq, I seen the same exact dream playback, and I felt like I was supposed to be there. The dream is the real reason why I was like, I wanted to go. I wanted to be with the people, but I dreamed about it. It felt like it was so real. I needed to make that dream come true. Those are how my dreams be feeling. Like, if I get a dream that's extremely vivid and it feels like I'm living it, I know that it means something significant. So I normally follow the direction that would make what I seen manifest if it means something long term. So I got out. I ended up going firefights, explosions at night, just all type of crazy shit. It was around the time that Black Hawks got shot down, and then when it was time for me to come back, we were supposed to convoy. We convoyed from Kuwait to Iraq. While in Kuwait, though, one time we got stuck on the side of the road and we had to be on guard. It wasn't like you get stuck on the side of the road and you just chill. I mean, eventually we just kind of simmered down, but because we was in Kuwait, we had to be alert. We couldn't just relax. From Kuwait, we drove to the base that we were at in Iraq. Guardian City is the portion of the base that we were on. So when it was time to leave, because it was so dangerous to drive, could not drive to Baghdad for me to catch the plane or the helicopter for me to go. I think it was a plane. We ended up getting on the helicopter to get to Baghdad. Well, I fell asleep, but they had like 50 cows guarding the plane, the Chinook that we were on, to get to Baghdad from the base that we were on. point. On the way in the original convoy, we got into a firefight. So when I say it was dangerous for us to go on the convoy to Baghdad of Iraq so that I could get back, it was crazy because we had literally just had a firefight like months before on our way there. But the point of this story was really none of that. But I'm just giving you a backstory on when I went to the military, how I got out, and everything associated with that, because it's almost been 20 years since I made the biggest decision of my life. So when I got out, I tried to do a lot of things. I tried to work for Atlanta PD. I tried to work for the post office here and in Phoenix. I've tried to work for the VA several times. I did work study for the VA, but it was hard to try to get a job for the VA. I just could not get a job for the VA for whatever reason. I mean, like for years, I used to try all the time to get different jobs, and it was like no job that I had ever really worked or didn't lead anywhere or wasn't fulfilling. So at this point in my life, that's why I kind of don't force things, because I used to be mad. I used to be upset, like, well, this isn't working and I really want to do it. And then I think maybe when I was doing work study, I just had came to the conclusion that God will not allow me to do anything that will take me off of my purpose, because I'm so obedient. He knows that if it don't work, I know that it ain't of him, so I won't force it. But if it flows seamlessly, like it can have some hiccups, it can have something that challenges you to pursue what it is that you're trying to do. But if it just outright no doors open, like none at all, for me that means to the left, and zoom up out of there. So, and that's like on anything, because and most of this has come not because of anything in the military. It's really because this is the reason why I have decided to make it a lifestyle and live my life like this, because I had came to that conclusion and understanding when it had to do with jobs, because I felt like if I ever worked at the post office and made good money, I would have never pursued writing books or taking my ideals seriously at all, because I would have been comfortable making that certain type of money. Even with working for the VA, because I was a work study, had the recommendations and still couldn't get a job there. And I think in the hospital and at the regional office. I just feel like when it's for me, the doors open for it to happen gracefully. Like it just flows. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have to learn or anything like that, but I started like that with just working. Like that was my mindset. Like I must not be getting these jobs because God just don't want me to go in that direction. So instead of trying to force my way into a way that God is not making the way available, like God will make the crooked straight, the mountains low, the valleys high. That means that as you go, he's going to make it what you need it to be, because you're going. It's not like a mirage, like it's going to appear before you go to make you go that way. Now, sometimes some stuff will happen to make you go that way, like my dreams, I guess, could be something that is appearing so that I can go that way, but it doesn't actually unfold until you take the steps. And this is the reason why it's hard for me to get carried away with any ideal or any activities or any concept or any hypothetical, theoretical, or, I'm trying to make it happen type of thing, because I cannot guarantee that those things are going to happen until those steps are taken. Because my steps are ordered, I can plan to take these steps. And if God tells me to change, turn, or avoid something, then my plan to take those steps don't mean that those steps are going to happen, or don't mean that it's going to go that way. When I say that I am a planner, that I am a visionary, I see what God shows me, and then I build around what God shows me. And then if God has me going the direction and I see what he showed me, and then he changes, or he changes before I see, then I know, because I'm guided by my peace. I know because I'm guided by as I'm going, the things are being made available. Laws are being changed for me and the rules are being rearranged for me. But people can't go out of their way for me if I don't go. So this is why I don't get carried away with people. And it really don't have nothing to do with people, but it's just the way that I have to say this in order for it to stick to you the way it needs to stick. This is the reason why I don't go off of what people say. This is the reason why people can't really sell me too many dreams, because nothing happens until it happens. And if it doesn't happen, then it hasn't happened. That's just the way it works. God doesn't reveal the next thing until you start going after what he said. So if you don't go after what he said, if you don't speak up, if you don't make that move, if you don't be more direct, and then sometimes it just be one decision, because let's say you out at an event, and if that event has two different places that you can go to wash your hands, or two different places you could go to get a drink, or two different places you could go to the bathroom, or two different places you could go to get food, then the decision that you have to make is which place are you going to go. Because if you are supposed to meet somebody in one place based on God wanting you to encounter them there, but you go to another place and you don't encounter them because you didn't make the decision to go where that person was going to be. Or it could just be anything. Let's say I'm supposed to see somebody in passing at the post office. For whatever reason, I decide not to go. Now, if that person, it doesn't matter who the person is, if there was a person that God wanted me to see at the post office and I decide not to go to the post office at that time, then guess what? I've missed the opportunity to encounter somebody that God may have wanted me to see in passing. Now, I could be seeing this person in passing for two different reasons: for a validation, a confirmation, or something solidification of whatever it is that God showed them. Like, let's say I'm seeing them because they might be wearing a shirt or a hat that says a message that I need. They might be seeing me because they know Speaking Freedom brand, and seeing me gives them the inspiration to keep going. It doesn't mean that we have to stop, say anything. It doesn't always mean that you have to go out of your way or anything like that. Now, if you know that you supposed to say something, or God would have had you to say something, or would have you to say something in a certain situation, or you feel the urge to say something, and you feel God leading you to say something and you don't, that's just as bad as you not being there. Or that's like, I don't want to say a sin, but if God wanted you to say something, you could have changed the trajectory of where that person's life, your life goes, or the inspiration that it was supposed to cause to grow, or what may have been coming up you may needed to know, or a place that you may needed to go, or a suggestion or a recommendation or anything. So this is the reason why being in alignment is so important. And then people often quote areas of the Bible that talks about not following your heart. But if your heart is aligned and in tune with God, then you can follow your heart, because your heart is following God. Oftentimes people don't want you to follow what's in your soul, because if you do what's really in your soul, it will expose trolls, and that means that it will begin to show you the people that don't belong in your life, the people that wreak havoc in your life. So as you begin to, if you want to quote something, out of the abundance of the heart flows the issues of life. So whatever is in your heart is what you're going to speak. If you got more love in your heart, you're going to talk more love. If you got more hurt in your heart, then you're going to speak more hurt. If you got more overcoming in your heart, you're going to speak overcoming. If you got more defeat in your heart, you're going to speak defeat. If you got more empowerment in your heart, then you're going to speak empowerment. If you got more insecurities in your heart, you're going to speak more insecurities. So if you got more God in your heart, you're going to speak more God. If you got more grace in your heart, you're going to speak more grace. If you got more lessons in your heart, you're going to speak more lessons. If you got more blessings in your heart, you're going to speak more blessing. If you fill your heart with love, love will overflow within it. If you fill your heart with peace, then peace will overflow within it. This is going to help you out a lot, because if you listen to what people talk about the most, you will hear what's in their heart the most. If it's belief that they believe in, if it's belief in their heart, then you're going to hear belief. If it's love in their heart, you're going to hear the love that's in their heart. If it's jealousy in their heart, you will hear the jealousy. And it may not always be with calling something what it is. It may be how they respond in different situations. Everything don't be jealousy, because y'all be thinking that people be jealous of y'all and people just be trying to help and correct y'all. Sometimes people just be trying to understand, see the difference. Everything don't be jealousy. Everything don't be hating either, because people don't like to hear the truth. So if you say some real truthful shit, then the motherfucker will act like you jealous. And you don't be jealous, you just be speaking the motherfucking truth. Or you don't be hating either, you just speak the truth. People don't like the truth. However, you have to make sure that you're not projecting. You have to make sure you're not bringing the negativity. But again, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So what is abundantly in your heart, that's what's going to come out. If you listen to people's sermons, if you listen to people's stories, if you listen to the way people give advice, if you listen to people's affirmations, if you listen to people's small talk, if you listen to people's responses, if you listen to what people are saying, how they say it, if in your presence, the body language in which they say it, if you watch what people do, see their patterns, then it will educate you about that person. Like, there was something that I seen, it was two people sitting together talking, and when I was looking at them talk, the one person was like watching the person's mouth. And for myself, thoughts are, is they watching the person's mouth move because they're trying to hear, listen, and comprehend? Watching the lips of a person speak helps them read and take in the information. It's like watching a person type or watching a person write a word out, so you learn how to write that word. You can learn that way. It's lip reading. For like, if you're at a distance, I used to lip read really good, and I used to hate when sports they would talk and they wouldn't cover their mouth and they be trying to whisper, and I'd be like, dang, like if the coach's booth or the owner's suite had a lip reader and they was watching you and they had the lip reader right there so they could tell them what you just said, then all your plans would be exposed because the person right there is reading lips. But then I noticed a pattern because I watched this person do this in the presence of other people. So it became an observation that this person either is infatuated with these people's lips. This is like my thought process. Or this person learns and hears and interprets information that way, like a person that may have the inability to hear. They are going to read lips and try to understand you based on that method. And it's the same. Just because you have your hearing doesn't mean that that doesn't enhance your ability to comprehend. This conversation that went so far from, but it didn't. Because I was talking about all the jobs and things that I tried to do and how I got to that point, going to the military, transitioning from being a high school dropout. Well, I didn't drop out. I was withdrawn. And then after my mother withdrew me, she wouldn't put me back in school, which was really crazy. Even though I just need to get my act together, she wouldn't put me back in school. And then somebody else helped me get my GED so that I could join the Army. So that's how I got going to the Army. And then getting out, I tried to get a whole lot of jobs, and me trying to do other things, it just didn't work. And when it didn't work, I believed that that was God guiding me into where I was supposed to be. And that taught me not to force things. Having dreams that I've seen come to reality. This is the reason why one of my books is supposed to be titled By Faith, By Force, By Love, because you can try to do things with just faith alone and you're not going to get far. And then you can try to force your way to do things and you're not going to get far. But when you do things according to love, everything that you could imagine will manifest to be what it's supposed to be, what God predestined and preordained for your life. Whatever that soul contract that you signed with God to say, God, when I go to earth, this is the plan that you have set for me. Now, all I have to do is remember the things that we discussed before I got to being born into this new life. And from there, it's on you to awaken your soul. And then again, whatever is in your soul, your mouth will speak. But sometimes you have to listen to books that will feed your subconscious and awake what's in your soul. Sometimes you have to take classes and listen to people, inquire about different things so that God can stir up in your soul all the things that your ancestors knew, all the things that was hidden or taken from you that within your soul, without religion, will awaken to. Because within that soul realm, you are exposing yourself to all truth. That's where the truth sets you free. I wouldn't say to not follow your heart. I would say to align your heart with the things of God so that you can trust what your heart is telling you, so that you can trust, because if you trust your own heart, then that means that you can trust God with your heart. But if you don't trust your heart, it's just like not trusting your own mind. That means that you will second guess and question yourself. That means that you will be unsure of what you're doing. Everything that I do, I'm not gonna say 1,000% because that's that shit that people say when they go on Maury and shit and they be knowing that they ain't the baby daddy, and then they be trying to, I'm 1,000% sure, and then they run off, come back, and they be running off because the results came back. So I am 100% certain of what I'm saying. And the more you open yourself to God, the more you align yourself with what God has for you, the more you will be purposeful, the more that you will be able to trust your heart, because your heart is now tapped into God. And if you trust yourself, if you trust God, if you trust yourself, you'll be able to trust God. You'll be confident in your decisions, but you'll be confident in what God placed in you and on you because of the way that you're able to trust yourself. But if you tell yourself that everything that I believe is wrong or what my heart be wanting is wrong, then you're likely to distrust yourself, which means that you won't fully be able to walk in God's fullness for your life because you're going to be second guessing yourself. This is the reason why most people don't hear God clearly, because you don't even trust yourself. So if God puts something on your heart, you're going to question it. It's like if God tells you to speak to somebody or say something to somebody and you unsure, then you might be missing the opportunity that God is presenting to you through you just saying, hey, how you doing? Or whatever the case may be. And this is how I got to where I am now, with where I am willing to say things more. I'm willing to do things more because my path led me to where you see me. Clearly, it wasn't on my own on many different levels, but every level that I've had to learn and overcome something all came in a manner of trying to force something or feeling something in my heart and not listening. And I kind of paused for a minute because I was thinking about around the time that I got married, what was going on in the lives of people. So my theory is that even though I am here doing this, me being here doing this also affects somebody else somewhere else doing something else. And they could be doing something else, good, bad, or indifferent. But me creating this video right now could be because somebody prayed about something, and something that I'm going to say in here is answering somebody else's prayer. So everything that you do affects somebody else, or it affects the ecosystem, the way the circle of life works. So even when we don't see what we're doing affecting somebody else, it does. indirectly and directly. And I can explain it, but it's going to sound probably weird. There is something that you did today that will impact somebody else's life years from now, days from now, moments from now, months from now. It's a decision that you are making right now that will impact somebody else's life by way of either you being available or you being unavailable. Some of your decisions will make other people make decisions in their lives. So I was thinking about when I got married, and in my mindset, not just when I got married, different aspects of different things in my life, it makes me wonder what was going on in other people's lives or in the people's lives that I'm supposed to be around with eventually, that when they did something, it gave room for me to do or experience something. But I can't really go into this because this is a whole movie idea. But everything that we do has an effect on other people, regardless if they are right now in our lives. Because if I make a decision and then based on the decision determines if I go down path A or B, and down path A or B has a variety of differences. Path A could be you going and meeting all of these certain people, and path B is you going and meeting maybe some other people. Now you can meet some of the same people on both paths, but on each path, depending on which way you go, will determine the lifespan of the encounter or when you might encounter or meet them. Let's say you're going to meet, no matter which path you take, you're going to meet Dr. Seuss. Just roll with it. So no matter which path you take, you're going to meet Dr. Seuss. You're going to meet Peg, you're going to meet Danny, and you're going to meet Joseph. So no matter which path you take, you're going to meet these people. But depending on those paths, Dr. Seuss, Peg, Danny, and Joseph. If you go down path A, you might meet Dr. Seuss in 2 months. Then you might meet Peg in 2 years. You might meet Danny in 2.5 years, and you might meet Joseph in 10 years. But along that way, you have experienced different things. You're going to go through different things. You're going to meet additional people. But these are key people that's supposed to be in your life that you would have eventually met anyways. Now, let's say instead of going down path A, you end up taking path B. And on path B, you don't even meet the people in the same order. And on path B, you meet Peg in 4 months. You meet Danny in 2 years. You meet Dr. Seuss in 8 years. And you meet Joseph in 9 years. Now, depending on what experiences, this is giving me chills, and it's not because the fan is on, baby. Depending on what experiences you have on path B has determined the way in which you meet the same people that are destined to be in your life no matter which way you go. Dr. Seuss, Peg, Danny, and Joseph are bound to be in your life. But depending on the path determines the way that you will meet them. Depending on the way that you meet them determines the basis of the relationship. Depending on the basis of the relationship determines the results that you will get and the developmental process of that relationship. Because on path A, you might have met Dr. Seuss first, which introduced you to Peg, and then you and Peg became really good friends. And then because of Dr. Seuss introducing you to Peg, Peg is married to Danny. And now Peg gets married to Danny, and now you've met them around the same time. And now because you met Dr. Seuss and Dr. Seuss introduced you to Peg and Peg married Danny, now Danny introduces you to Joseph, who you're supposed to be with. This is like on both paths, you're meeting these key people. Now on path B, I think you met Joseph last still, but this time you met Peg, then you met Danny, and then you met Dr. Seuss. Now you met Peg some other way. So depending on how you met Peg, y'all may or may not end up being cool. Y'all may or may not have different sets of experiences because now you've met Peg in a a different way other than from Dr. Seuss. And Peg gets to marry Danny, but now she marries Danny further out. Or matter of fact, on this path, Peg don't even marry Danny. On this path, Peg and Danny just end up being cool. Now, I'm going to give you a path C in a second because I got to. On this path, Peg and Danny end up just being cool. They end up being with somebody else, two other people, and they just are cool. They never in a relationship, nothing ever happens, but you still end up meeting Dr. Seuss through Peg. And now that you've met Dr. Seuss through Peg, you and Dr. Seuss start dating instead of him being the way that you met Peg. Now you're thinking that you're supposed to date Dr. Seuss. So when Joseph comes along at the 9-year mark, you've missed the opportunity to be with Joseph because you are dating Dr. Seuss. Now, you and Joseph can still end up being together, but because you're dating Dr. Seuss, now that has been delayed. Now, y'all have to go through a whole bunch of other things, and it may not be something that y'all know are supposed to happen. It may not be something like, now, let's say you and Dr. Seuss end up falling out, and you still end up meeting Joseph, but now the relationship is not the way that it was on in A, because in A, everybody end up being cool, everybody end up being a family, everybody end up knowing each other through each other. While in B, now you don't even fool with Dr. Seuss no more at all. And you done met Joseph and Peg is cool, but Danny like Dr. Seuss. Do you see the breakdown of how one decision or one directional pivot can change the narrative of the story? Now, Path C has just been added to the equation. So, on Path C, guess what happens? You meet Joseph first. You and Joseph don't like each other when y'all meet. He gets on my nerves, she gets on my nerves. So, you meet Joseph first. Y'all don't hit it off. But Joseph already knows Peg. Peg and Joseph went to school together. Now, Peg and Joseph going to school together, that means that they're just cool. But you still meet Dr. Seuss, and Dr. Seuss introduces you to Peg. But Dr. Seuss and Peg used to go out. So now Peg and Dr. Seuss is cool, but now when she meets Danny, her and Danny, they like each other. They eventually end up getting married, but now it's an uncomfortability with Dr. Seuss and Danny because they used to date and they have some unresolved insecurity issues. Now, if you're listening to what I'm saying, this is one person that's going to encounter these 4 people in their life no matter what. The only thing that you can do to avoid encountering these people is like totally change the trajectory of your life. Like, let's say that options A, B, and C are being in a certain area. And option D, I don't know where option D came from, but shit, option D just popped up on the scene like shit. Option D is like me going to the military. So if I would have stayed in Dayton, Ohio, I had a limited options of what I would have been able to do in Dayton, Ohio. That would have been path A, B, and C. So option D would be me moving and going to the Army. Now, option A, B, and C could be 1, me staying in Dayton, 2, me going to high school, finishing high school, not getting into as many fights as I got into, not being around the wrong people, and really focusing on my grades, going to high school, because I don't know if I was in honors then, because I don't know if they really did that, but I had passed all of the tests that I needed to take, advance a little bit. So that option A is me finishing school and having some issues. Option B is me going to school, doing everything that I was supposed to do, going to college, and me meeting some people based on where I would have probably went to college at. Because I would have probably went to a college in Atlanta if I didn't go to Bethune-Cookman, but I've always wanted to live in Atlanta, so I would have ended up in Atlanta eventually anyways. And then option C would be me staying in, dating, and not doing nothing, period. Now, these can be anywhere because these people that I'm talking about are not any particular people. Then option D would be me changing the entire trajectory of everything by going to the Army. And now I have encountered a whole new set of people that would not have been in my circumference if I would have just stayed in Dayton. Whether I went off to college or stayed in Dayton and just got a job around Dayton, I'm just saying. But when I went to the Army, it changed my entire trajectory of what the possibilities for me was. My decision to go, if life is what I believe it is, then it's at that same moment somebody else was making another decision that would internally or eternally eventually affect when we meet. Why I don't try to force my way into doing things, and how I've tried to work at plenty of different jobs and some of them just didn't work out. And over the years, I learned to trust God because God would guide me easily when something was for me. When I went to the Army, it was easy. It wasn't like they gave me a hard time. It wasn't like nothing like that. It just worked. When I went to go get my GED, the lady didn't give me the hard time. It wasn't a whole bunch of ruckus going on. It just worked. When it was time for me to leave Iraq, when it was time for me to go to Iraq, it wasn't a whole bunch of rigmarole. It just worked. When it was time for me to buy my first house, it wasn't no real hardcore, I'm forcing me getting a house. It worked. When it was time for me to sell my house, when nobody thought that I was going to be able to sell my house in Florida because it was a quote unquote recession, or it was a buyer's market, not a seller's market, I sold my house and got some money out of it. And it just worked. It flows. When it was time for me to get a divorce, I was selling my house. It just worked. Everything works in my favor when it's for me. Things go the way it's supposed to go when it's for me. So over the years, I've learned that when it's for me, it'll just work. I don't have to force it. All I have to do is be loving, be who God called me to be, do my very best at what God is showing me to do, and allow God to show me the rest, or allow God to do the rest. The things that I'm incapable of doing, God will provide. God will do. God will open doors for you just like He does for me. And the more that I've aligned my heart with what God has shown me, with being open to seeing the dreams and being open to seeing the visions, and being open sometimes is just asking God, show me what you want me to see. Show me what I'm blind or oblivious to. Show me in dreams. Show me in visions. Speak to me directly. Speak to me the way that you know that I can receive it. Don't speak to me the way you speak to everybody else. Speak to me in a way where I know that it's you and I'm going to receive it. I'm going to know what's for me and what I'm supposed to do. Ask God to order your footsteps. Ask God to open doors for you. Ask God to close doors for you. Ask God for the feelings, the vibe, the intentions, the will, the willpower, the understanding, the comprehension. Ask God to make it so plain that you can't help but to listen. That's what my dreams are for me, and I hope that this is helpful for you.
Speaking Freedom presents Good Head Group, providing advanced spiritual studies and personal developmental insight. Brought to you by Love Gang and Speaking Freedom. We look forward to helping you grow in all the areas of your life. We hope that you find all the information needed for your growth. God bless. Please listen to all disclaimers provided. If you are currently under physician's care, please maintain that relationship. This is not intended to stop your current treatment plan. If you need physician care, please seek out medical attention. Please note, all results are based on the individual's ability to adapt and adjust to any given environment and situation. We are not responsible for your results at Speaking Freedom. The life enhancement coaches at Speaking Freedom provide information to help you grow. You are responsible for maintaining that growth, taking on and then applying the information to your individual life as you deem needed and necessary. This may contain and explain explicit content. Please use parental discretion. For best results, you will need an open mind, the ability to research, and a balanced lifestyle.
Please join us daily for your inspiration and motivation. We have the entire world to offer you at your fingertips. Your life enhancement coaching specialist. Thank you for choosing us to assist you in accomplishing your personal and professional goals. And have a beautiful day. In love, we trust. This is brought to you by Good Head Group, Love Gang, and Speaking Freedom. We thank God for you, and we love you.
Hi, I'm Kaci, Dr. Kaci to be exact, owner of Speaking Freedom LLC, Love Gang, and Good Head Group LLC. I am also a certified life coach and host of Speaking Freedom Radio and TV. Although I have recently became an ordained minister, please be aware that I am still me, raw and uncut the way God made me and allowed life to shape me. I pray and expect God to use me for people who can receive the way I communicate, as well as my delivery. I am not for those who are already saved, religious, or super deep. I am for the leaders, hustlers, and street influencers around the world, including pimps, killers, drug dealers, and working girls. I am sharing my experiences and perspective to help someone be inspired to be better. And for those who can identify with the various aspects of my mindset. My mindset alone does not determine the status of any active connections or current relationships that have not already been specifically addressed. Additionally, these recordings should not be taken personally if I have not already spoken to you about the topic or expressed that I have an issue. These recordings are a part of my life's work to document my experience, perspective, and to see how life has shaped me. My plan in using my stories publicly and socially is to encourage growth in those who can identify with the experiences and find inspiration in my life to heal and overcome the path that they've been set on, no matter what they face, as according to the purpose of their soul, until healing takes place. Despite the experiences that I may have had with any person, sometimes known and unknown, I hold no grudges, no hate, no bitterness, or any other ill feelings against anyone. I pray that your life is whole and very fruitful. I forgive you as I hope that you forgive me if I have wronged you or anyone that you know or anyone who listens to me. I pray that you have peace and extend the same grace to others. I have love for everyone, especially on a human level, despite flaws or experiences. But that doesn't mean that I will associate or be close to every human that I know or meet. I've experienced a very eventful life and truly believe that my mindset and story based on experiences could help those who identify with how I think and are looking for inspiration to grow further, go beyond hurt, and be great. I pray that these recordings bless you and your soul in every way, in whatever way God has intended. Sending love and light to all. Thanks for listening. Achieve your dreams.